Talk-15. Knowledge is illusion. Why do you ask about that which has never happened? Yet I shall tell you something so that there is no room for doubt. Why do you ask about that which has never existed at all? As you think about the world, so will you see it. According to pure knowledge, this universe does not exist at all. This worldly manifestation is the doing of the self and is all imagination. This is a phase of knowledge that is peculiar and a spectacle. The self is the king. When he gets seated in a body, he holds on to various concepts. The thought of the self keeps changing constantly. Nothing of this world actually exists in the self. Whatever this I has imagined has appeared. We experience an infinite number of universes because the self imagines that they exist. The self is the doer of all. He is God, Ishvara. God or Bhagavanta means the self. This universe has arisen from the self, from knowledge. The self is the doer. This entire panorama is due to that. When the self knows itself, it is called God or Ishvara. When it forgets its own nature, it is called ignorance. When the self is not aware of either its own self or the world, it is called the state of the void. When the self looks at this true nature, there is empty sky or space. That is called the inner self. When the Atman looks away from its true nature, it is called the jiva, or individual. When Atman forgets its own nature, it is called ignorance, the ignorant aspect of Shiva. The self, which is knowledge incarnate, is Ishvara, God, who has created this world. From that knowledge, this elaborate panorama has come into being. It is called Purusha Prakriti, formless and form, matter and reality, and has many names. In that appears the power of action, the power of will, and the power of proliferation, and all other powers. All of these are born out of that knowledge. And that knowledge is called primordial Prakriti, or Mula Prakriti, and sometimes Mula Maya. Its primordial nature is the reason that people traditionally worship Ishvara. Accordingly, they also worship the other so-called gods that come later. The holy place called Prabhasa means the place of light. There all the Yadavas perished. The Yadavas being relatives of Lord Krishna, who is knowledge, had to be destroyed by him, since they became egotistic. The power of all action has come due to this knowledge, Krishna. That God is knowledge cannot be talked about openly, because all devotees feel good when it is said that God has made everything, but they do not know who God is. The aspirant, due to ignorance, does not believe that knowledge is the true doer. One who says that he accrues merit or sin, has birth and death, happiness and misery, and takes rebirth, is called the jiva, or ignorant one. But when the ignorant one understands through the advice of the Satguru, the true master, that I am not the mind, intellect, senses, or body, he becomes Shiva, pure consciousness and pure knowledge. The cause of all this universe is the primordial illusion, Mula Maya. There is bondage for the jiva and liberation for Shiva. Bondage and liberation are mutually dependent. One who has bondage alone will have liberation. One who is beyond both knowledge and ignorance has neither bondage nor liberation. And the nature of Para Brahman is beyond both bondage and liberation. Saint Tukaram said, "In this body and by these very eyes, see the celebration of liberation." Bondage is nothing but ignorance, and liberation is nothing but a higher degree of ignorance. One who achieves self-knowledge after erasing the conditioning of both jiva and Shiva attains the greatest good. The one who experiences reality knows that bondage and liberation are both delusion. The self in its purest form of self-knowledge is called Mula Maya, while the ignorance which results from the state of no knowledge is called Maya. Only as long as this Jagadisha, this Lord of the world, is present in all the hearts does this Maya last. Once it disappears, there is no Maya. Mula Purusha, the primordial being or pure knowledge, is illusion. And ignorance, avidya, is also illusion. It must be analyzed just how this illusion has appeared on that which has no form. For example, just as the magician performs many tricks through his will or sleight of hand, the drama of this world appears through the will of the self, Atman. If one starts thinking of the origin of this drama, there is nothing. As is your thinking, so will be the result. Through the grace of the Master, you get the knowledge that all of this is nothing. Mind, intellect, ego, the senses, all of it are visible to you, and they are all perishable. You are neither the body nor the senses, nor the pranas or the mind or the intellect. Bondage and liberation are the nature and the play of illusion. Mula Maya arose as a state of pure awareness in Parabrahman. When the gunas as attributes or qualities arose in that, it became what is called guna shobhini, that is, the stirring or arousal of the gunas. When the wind flows in the sky, it does not distort the sky in any way. In a similar way, when guna maya, the illusion with attributes, arose in Parabrahman, there was no change or distortion in Parabrahman. The 5 elements means that which happened. Movement and speech are the attributes of the sky. This creation is created out of the 5 elements. So what you see in the world is all false and imaginary. As is enunciated in the Bhagavad Gita, whatever is never perishes, and whatever is not never comes into existence. This body is born of the 5 elements. The mountains and rocks are all of the nature of the earth.